Welcome! I'm Johan Nilsson.
And I'm Lincoln Murphy. And this is Impact Weekly.
We're here to help you make your customers successful. Each week, we answer your most pressing customer success management questions by relying on our years of experience with companies around the world.
Let's get this going. Hey, welcome to another episode of Impact Weekly. I hope you're having a great week. I know some customer success teams are running on fumes at the moment. I actually spoke to a CSM the other day about stress, and I asked her what her recommendations are for someone feeling overwhelmed at work. And she basically told me two things. So, two things she does to cope. Number one is that she works out to make sure to work out, even though it's heavy schedule. And number two is that she keeps feeding her brain with some new ideas. And I think the latter there is what we're trying to do with Impact Weekly to help you get new perspectives, new ideas, inspiration that you can bring back into your job, make it easier, make it more fun, and get more results as well. So this is episode 20, and it's going to be actually a special one. We received some suggestions, some feedback that people would like to fast track to some of the best advice. So this is what we've done. We'll listen to you, of course, and we have basically compressed the best advice from the first episodes into one. You will basically be able to cherry pick here and get the advice right away for each topic. Of course, go back if you need more context, if you want to go deeper into the subject, go back to that episode and you will get more. But this is a fast track. This is going to be a condensed version of the previous episodes. Hope you enjoy it, and do not forget to post your questions so we can bring up your specific, most pressing issue within the area of customer success. Enjoy. All right, so we're back. Another question for this week. This one is about the main KPI for a CSM. So this person asked me in a mail, what is NRR, net revenue retention? Is that the main KPI for a CSM, or what should it be? So common question, I would say. Let's dig into that.
Yeah, so I know that you had a couple of ideas, some practical solutions here.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I think if you, take full ownership of net revenue retention. Sometimes even if you're not fully responsible or not measured on it, go all in and be aware of this KPI, be aware that this is going to be what management is going to look at, even the board, investors, everyone. So take as much of ownership of it as you can. I think that's like the number one here. And as we discussed, I would say if I go into number two, it's about these roll-up metrics. That's where you get more guidance in what to do and what to focus on and prioritize. So looking at both renewals, retention and expansion, looking at contraction, looking at churn on your portfolio, and then start focusing on how to improve those roll-up metrics.
Exactly. And, I'll just add one that I think is, it's so easy to miss. Well, and you kind of, everything that you just said, this is sort of that thread that runs through all of it. But this one that is so easy to miss when you try to get into the weeds on these metrics. And we're just kind of thinking about, what are the measurements? What's the KPI? Look, NRR is primarily influenced by the success of our customers. Oh, yeah. That it's that simple. If you focus on making your customer successful, and remember, that's helping them achieve their desired outcome, achieve the goal that they have, which is their objective, and then there's a time frame for that, and giving them their appropriate experience along the way, your customer will tend to stay longer, increase their spend, and maybe even advocate for you. So if you simply focus on making your customer successful, your influence on NRR is generally going to be quite positive. So, don't take your eye off of what's really important here, and that's making sure your customers are successful. But knowing why NRR is important, knowing how you contribute to it, all of that is super critical, I believe. If you really want to be sort of a professional CSM, and especially if you want to move from being a CSM into more of a leadership role, this is what the people that run your company are focused on. So it's good to know about this, but on a day-to-day basis, just make sure your customers are successful.
All right, this week's question. How much time should you spend trying to save a customer from leaving, and when is it over? I think it's a great question, and I think a lot of us have been contemplating that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty common question. It's almost a common concern that doesn't always get articulated as a question, but I think it's there in the back of the mind of a lot of CSMs. And I think there's a lot to unpack here around what saving means and why you should do that, when you should do that. And of course the whole when is it over aspect, I think is really important.
Exactly. Let's wrap this question up in three things. So what is the number one here?
Number one is prioritize customers that haven't canceled, but that also have success potential. So those are the ones that you should be working to save. That's it. Everything else is lesser priority.
Yeah. And number two here is we need to be transparent what happened here. Why did we end up where we are? I think that's the only way to come back to the table and to have this success plan, whether it's to make a restart and go back to onboarding again. And a point here is also to, I think you mentioned intervention. We need to make this, to make a save, you need to do something really with big impact, and I like to put it in a limited time frame as well, so we also know when it's over. If we have done all we can during this sprint, if it's a 2-week or 3-week sprint, and it still haven't moved the needle for the customer, maybe we're okay with it's over for this customer, and we can move on to the next one or the other ones, the other things we have. So we can help ourselves also to let go.
Exactly. I love that. And intervening with something that's going to make a big impact, I think, is critical. But like you said, with a time frame in place, so that I always say there's going to be diminishing returns after some point, right? So
exactly.
We've done what we can, and then it's time to move on. Third, and this is kind of this is just something that I think is kind of interesting and will be helpful. Don't ask a customer. So this is we're trying to learn from our customers. We want to learn why they left. One of the mistakes I see that also is kind of a time waster is trying to get an exit interview with a customer before they leave. Say, well, no, but I want that intel. I really want to know why a customer is leaving. I'll tell you what, if a customer, you've done all this stuff, you intervene, they're still on their way out. If you make them give you an exit interview before, we can finalize the cancellation, what you are doing is guaranteeing that you're going to get really bad intel. The customer just wants out. They just want to leave. So they're going to tell you whatever is going to be the most efficient way out. It's probably going to be that they don't have enough money, right? Because it's hard to argue with something that we don't know. And so they're going to leave. So your best bet, if you really want to do this, is to circle back with them after they've already canceled and see if they'll tell you why. They are much more likely, if they are willing to talk to you, they're much more likely to give you an honest answer since they've already canceled and there's no chance that you can, try to save them, right? Exactly. They're out. psychologically, there's, the barriers are down. Now they can just be honest with you. So that's just kind of
and that's what we want here. So
we want honest, right, exactly. Yeah. We want the
everything
honest,
else is wasting our time. So,
and we're trying for more high percentage activities that are going to, things that are going to get us the results we're really looking for. So that's just one of those tactical things that comes up a lot. Exit interviews, not so great. Interviews after the fact, while you might not get as high of a hit rate, the intel you'll get is much better. So There you go.
That's it. So those are the 3 things. So thanks a lot, everyone. All right. So we are back for another question. This week's question is about quarterly business reviews, doing appointments with the customer. I think that's something all of us do all the time in customer success. So let's get into it. The specific question is this. I have a target of doing at least 4 appointments per week with business review with my customers. It eats up a lot of time and I don't see a lot of positive coming out of these QBRs. Let's help this person now. What should this person do and we specifically talk about how can we achieve more things with our meetings we do with the customer. So let's give this person 3 very concrete things to start doing.
Sure. So I have a couple right out of the gate that I think are really important. We have to have a clear agenda for the meeting that's built around what's in it for them.
Oh, yeah.
And that, the distinction there is the part about what's in it for them. It can't just be an agenda of where it's things that you want to go over because they're things that either you feel like you need to, or you've been told that these are the things we want to go over. If you don't know what's in it for them, like if you can look at a line item and you can't figure out why they would care about that, then it probably shouldn't be part of the meeting. Right. That's how we need to be thinking about it. So a very clear agenda and also communicate that and get their feedback on that before the meeting. Make sure that there's nothing on there that they would rather postpone or other things that they would like to talk about instead. So have a clear agenda built around what's in it for them. Structure the entire meeting workflow in the meeting itself. And what I mean by that is very often we may have some structure around the way that we set up meetings, the way that we schedule meetings. We may have some structure around the meeting itself. We just talked about having an agenda, but there's a lot more to the process of setting up a meeting and confirming a meeting and making sure that everything is still on track for that meeting. And then, actually working the meeting itself, even if you just have the agenda, you still want to have a framework for that meeting that includes, the pleasantries at first, time checks, making sure that everybody is there and having that something that is consistent across all the meetings that we do. We just don't want to be doing these things sort of haphazardly and you want to get away from the chaos, right? So try to have the whole process of getting the meeting set up and actually doing the meeting and then having the follow-up from that meeting. Have all of that structured and planned out ahead of time. I think you're going to be in a much better place to ensure that the meetings that you are having are actually valuable certainly for the customer and ultimately for you.
Definitely. And I think just the point on that one is that, sometimes when you're with a really experienced customer success manager, all of these things just seem to flow smoothly. And if you're new in customer success, you might think you don't get that flow. And that comes down to actually, you have to practice these things, like to have a really good meeting with all the structure around it. It takes practice. That's why like a senior person is doing it very smoothly because they've done it a lot of times. So one way to do that is also to practice on this, how to work through a meeting and what things can come up. And I think that leads into number 3 here as well, which is practice is one thing, but it's also around how we prepare for this meeting. So we can go into the meeting with what we call an objective confidence, that we know
a lot about the customer. We have prepared, we know the context they're in, the status of the customer, everything. So we can really be present in the meeting. And part of that preparation is also what things might come up here. What kind of objections will this customer come up with? What kind of questions do I need to bring into the meeting so I can get the meeting where I want it? And what will the potential objections be from the customer side, and prepare on those. So I think the third part here is a lot to make this a great meeting is preparations and presence. And what's good with this is that we know this is skills, and in our Impact Academy we have this objective confidence framework where you get to work with all these things. So I think that's number 3 here. All right, so those are the 3 things to do. Great question, a lot into this question. So good luck with this, and talk soon. Okay, so let's get going for this week's topic. I have a really good question. It's coming from a CSM who's responsible for onboarding, and the question here is that this CSM is struggling with customers not being really prepared when they start the onboarding, and this person is the struggle here is that they get a lot of work. They feel like sometimes they feel like sales is cutting corners, and it's becoming their headache, and they think that the sales maybe should have done more in before even handing over the customer.
Right.
So I think this is a question we get a lot of times, and Lincoln, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of thing comes up a lot, unfortunately. I mean, I see this quite a bit, and I think there's a lot to unpack in this, what might seem like a relatively straightforward question, but there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, speaking of like cutting corners, I know sometimes that can be the case here, and been working in sales for a long time, I know I had seen sales reps doing a lot of things. Like I even had one sales rep that was selling a SaaS product to a customer that did not even understand it was a system or a digital tool. They thought it was just like a professional service they were getting. So this can happen, but and bad fit customers. I mean, that's a huge topic, so we'll probably get back to that. So let's just assume that this question is coming from a point where it's not a bad fit customer. And let's assume that, but still, I think when you're in customer success, we also have to realize that the sales process, there's a lot of things happening in a sales process, and there's a lot of things being covered, and sales they will not go through everything that you might want to know in the onboarding phase. So we need to realize that as well. All right, so. Getting back to this question now. So how do we move from a situation where you feel that you have a customer coming into onboarding unprepared into making it work smoother? If let's summarize this for this CSM in three actionable things that they could do today or at least this week.
Yeah. So I think, okay, so if we just said, how do we do this? Like, I alluded to this earlier. I think the first thing you have to do is start putting together this plan. So like I said earlier, you take essentially 4 categories of things that your customers will need to do, things that they do on their own outside of your product. So that's things that you don't have control over and you don't really even have visibility into, things that they have to do on their own outside of the product, things that they have to do inside of your product. So, things that they're going to do inside of your app, but they're going to do those on their own. You will have some visibility into that, of course, depending upon your situation, but you're not going to be doing that with them. But then there's also things that you will be doing with them. So, on a screen share or something like that, you'll be doing in a Zoom session or whatever. And then there's things that you would do for them. Maybe that's things that your professional services team or whatever would do.
Yeah.
But you kind of figure out those 4 categories, all the things that they have to do. So start documenting those. And so the thing to do today, like I said, open a Google Doc or whatever you take notes in, and just start documenting those 4 categories of things right now. So start there. And
Perfect.
Something to keep in mind, though, it's really important, is this may differ across your different customer segments. Usually there's going to be some overlap. They're going to share, 80% of the steps, the things that they have to do. But, there may be enough differences between whatever your logical customer segments are that you may have a couple of different versions of this. So just keep that in mind. And then, so once you have that, and again, don't let perfection get in the way of actually making progress. So just this could be a sort of a working doc, but once you have it to a certain, a place where you feel like it's complete enough that a customer could get some value from it, this is something you could share with your salesperson, the salespeople that you generally work with. This is kind of, I'm going to be honest, this is maybe one of those places where you kind of have to ask for forgiveness after you've done this rather than asking for permission. But, you may want to go ahead and just share this with your salespeople. And then if somebody comes and asks what you're doing or why you did it, say, I'm sorry, it's my first day. I didn't realize that was bad. But this is one of those things where you look, here's the reality. As a customer success manager, you often have to advocate for yourself and for your customers, and you need to do things that are in your best interest and in your customer's best interest, and working through some of the just the bureaucracy that might be in there, might take too much time, and it might not be approved. But after the fact, if somebody says, what were you doing, you can just sort of say, well, I did this, and if you don't want me to do it again, that's fine. But it's already done, and now the salespeople have this, essentially really valuable asset that they can use as that presumptive close, but that is also going to help your customers come into the onboarding process much more prepared. So I don't think it's ever going to be seen as a bad thing. I've never seen it in any way seen as a bad thing, but just know that if you go directly to your salespeople without going through proper channels, somebody might say something, but in this case, you may want to just ask for forgiveness rather than permission, but you didn't hear that from me.
So create the plan. You can do that. Start today. Share it with the people you work with in sales, and then number 3, of course, you should also share this with the customer as part of your onboarding. I mean, even maybe sales have already shared some of it, so they should be familiar with it. But then you use it in your onboarding and share it with your customer. You can do that as a doc or a shared workspace or similar, and that will help you as well, and it will help you set the expectations for the customer, of course. So that's number 3. And actually, we have a bonus one that's you should also bring this to your attention to your if you're not the head of customer success yourself, bring it to your head of customer success, and I'm sure that there's a lot more that could be added to this and help the other people in the team as well. So those are the 3 very concrete things to do today based on this question. Hey everyone! So welcome back to another Impact Weekly podcast episode. Today we're going to talk about customer ownership. I think it's a huge topic. So we have actually two parts to this question. The first part here is that we have a person asking if it seems that customer success is moving away from one person owning the customer journey to being more people owning the customer journey. Is this the future, or is it something that will change again? That's the first part of the question. The second part here is from another person that's basically having this situation where a lot of people are involved in the customer journey, and this person is asking about how do you create a good value-driven customer journey when you have a lot of people involved. And this person is actually experiencing a little bit of poor communications going around with the customer. So first part is this a trend? Is this something we see happening? And the second part is, how do you manage in this area, in this situation as well?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would say that in customer success, the trend is definitely what we would say is specialization across the customer lifecycle. So this means that we're seeing more people working with the customer directly than we saw in the past. The days of a CSM doing all things across the lifecycle are over, and frankly, that's a really good thing. It means there's a realization that a CSM is not magic. CSM does not stand for customer success magician. That there's just that idea of a CSM being all things to the customer was just unrealistic, and it put way too much pressure on one person to do way too much. So I think this is not a test. This is not something that people are just trying. This is definitely a trend, and I think we're going to see more and more specialization across the life cycle. But that said, there's a lot going on in this question, or in these two questions, more so than just sort of the structure. There's a lot going on here.
Let's try to wrap up now and help these people who are looking to improve, maybe moving into a customer ownership by a bigger team. And if you have started already, and if you don't feel that things are moving very well, if you even get from the customer that they are not happy with this, maybe we should just help these people with three concrete things that we would recommend to take action on. Sure.
So I think the first one would be get clear on the processes and the roles. So this is, again, where the RACI model comes in. Yeah. And I would say start doing that now, even if it's just you. Like, it might sound crazy. You're the only one that's going to be on there. But mapping out, okay, here are the various stages of the customer life cycle. Here are the different stakeholders, and here's what, who would need to be, sort of who's responsible and accountable and consulted and informed at each stage. And it's you right now. But then as you start growing, you start adding additional people, you start plugging them into this. And so, start doing things early, sort of thinking about the future, and again, looking for those gaps, and where might we be able to drop the ball with the customer. Look for the very obvious places and really try to shore that up. So get clear on the processes and the roles of the people involved.
That's a great point. Following that one, something that's very close to my heart, you need to centralize your data here. So you have everything, you need to capture everything that's going on with the customer. So you have that accessible for everyone involved. That's going to create a lot of efficiency for you. It's going to take away all these gut feel and these, you have to ask him or her. So this is a key part in building a more team approach to customer success, is of course to have centralized data where you can see how things are going as much as possible, of course, real time. So that's number two here, and this is also a step-by-step process. So start getting it, the first steps on that one, and then you can evolve with adding more data to it. But that's a key thing here as well.
For sure. Yeah, I mean that's critical to eliminating the customer having to repeat themselves at the very least, right? That's so huge. And then I think the third one I would say is orchestration, which is really just proactively and properly managing expectations with your customers, so there are no surprises, so that they know you're not, as a CSM, like, you're not the only person they're ever going to work with. If they think that, it's because you didn't manage their expectations properly. So just do that. Be transparent about what it's going to look like when they start working with you, or as they advance and as they grow and evolve. So, and again, if it's just you right now,
great. But let them know at some point you may bring on other people on the team and they may end up working with them. So start managing expectations today.
Perfect. So that's a wrap for today's question. We'll be back soon, and keep posting questions to us. We love that. So thanks a lot, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. Do you want to bring your customer success to the next level? Check out Impact Academy. We have training programs for customer success managers and for leaders in customer success.